We're live now.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is February 3rd, 2023, and this is the Senate Government Operations Committee. We are here with Tucker Anderson, our legislative counsel attorney, who's going to take us through S55, which is a bill that opened meetings law. So, take it away.
Good afternoon, committee. Tucker Anderson, legislative counsel. You have in front of you S55, which proposes to do three things with Vermont's open meeting law. The first is to incorporate some of the temporary authorization provisions related to the open meeting law and would allow for fully remote meetings of public bodies. The second would be to allow the posting of notices and agendas in electronic locations. And the final would be to repeal 1 VSA section 312A, which was the emergency authorization statute passed by the General Assembly last year to allow fully remote meetings during states of emergency. That would no longer be necessary if the open meeting law was amended to allow fully remote meetings broadly. We'll start in section 1 on page 1. Section 1 starts on line 15 and moves into page 2, where the operative provision we're working with is, and that's on line 7. It's in subdivision A2, which governs participation in meetings through electronic or other means. Under the default terms of the open meeting law currently, if a public body is going to meet by electronic means and a quorum or more of its members, they have to designate a physical meeting location where the public can attend. That is in subdivision 2D, which you'll see on line 9. The first instance of amendment strikes those requirements for a physical meeting location and instead requires that a public body shall, we're on line 15 now, use technology that permits the attendance of the public through electronic or other means, allow the public to access the meeting by telephone, and finally to post information that enables the public to directly access and participate in meetings electronically and include that information in the published agenda for each meeting. These are the same three procedural requirements that were built into the temporary authorizations. However, there are some absences here based on what was included in the temporary authorizations. The primary one that I'll point out is that this does not include the requirement for these meetings to be recorded if the public body is a school board or the legislative body of the municipality, so city council, select board. Moving on to page 3, in subdivision D1B, this would allow the notices and agendas to be posted in electronic locations. And this is again discretionary. Section 2 of the bill, which is on line 9, repeals 1 VSA section 312A. The broad overview description of what that section is. It governs meetings of public bodies that are affected by a state of emergency, and under the terms of that statute, as it is currently written, if a state of emergency were to be declared and the meeting location of the public body was to be affected by that state of emergency, so if they could not meet in that physical location because of the emergency, they would be allowed to meet fully remotely. And again, that would no longer be necessary if this were to pass and the open meeting law is amended to allow remote meetings broadly. The effective date is set for July 1st, 2023.
Okay. Are there any questions for Tucker about any of the language or provision? No. Okay. I will just say, especially for those watching or listening to the recording later, that this bill was introduced and largely as a vehicle for us to have a broader conversation on what changes we may or may not want following the pandemic. We have had 3 years, and then we just extended it for until the end of next year to have remote meetings and sort of pandemic era public meetings. And we as I stated on the floor and has been stated publicly many times, this requires a broader conversation. So this bill is just a vehicle for the broader conversation. What's in it now is not necessarily where we're going to end up. It is the start of a conversation starting from basically where we are right now. But I just want to reassure everyone who's listening, we'll have a lot of people in, especially people who had concerns about the temporary provisions, and make sure that we have a time to hash it out. And one of the reasons that we extended the temporary provisions for 2 years is so that we could have the time to do it. So it is possible that this bill will extend into next session, so that we have the time to really think through the provisions and hear from everybody while we're working on it. And I've been talking to our counterparts in the House, and they're sort of on board with the longer conversation as well. So I just want to reassure everyone who is in the room, but more so who may be listening, including our friends in the press and our friends who are really concerned about how we conduct remote meetings, and what the provisions would be for them if they were to continue. So that's definitely where we're at. This is just a start to the conversation, as promised, and Senator Clarkson was kind enough to get this bill moving. So go ahead.
No, I would agree with you, Ruth. I think it is a start, and I think we luckily have we've heard many things. All of us have heard of the increased participation because of the remote opportunity. I don't think any of us want to have open meeting, have a commission or a select board or a school board. We don't want all the meetings conducted remotely because we know the power of the personal relationship and the impact of meeting in person. But to be able to have this as an option, I think is critically important for our rural communities as we look at reducing our fossil fuel consumption in both heating buildings for a few people who might be meeting, to driving there to our ice storms and inclement weather. There are a whole host of reasons to keep this as an option. We heard loud and clearly that, and also just the ability for so many more people to attend. We also heard from a couple people about improving the quality of how we meet in our distributed teams and in our remote capacities, and maybe building in an encouragement to have some training on improving the quality of how we meet remotely. We luckily have one of the country's experts who lives in San Francisco on distributed teams, who has testified in this State House several times on both the remote worker bill and on our digital corporations bill. So we have some great resources, and we have it's an opportunity. I would hope we would pass this by the end of our session so that it gives the House a full session to really look at it, because I think if we're going to make any movement on this, we would want to have it passed by the end of obviously next year.
Yeah.
So I'd love to get it to them by the end. I would hope we'd have an objective of getting it out of here by May.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. But I guess my point is that it may not make crossover. And
oh yeah, I'm not worried
about
crossover.
Not get worried about the bill not making crossover. So we will take testimony probably periodically on the bill. So if you have people that you want to hear from, I mean, and all of us have experience with public meetings in other forums beyond the legislative, school board, select board, city council, other public meetings. So, and in our communities as well. Let me know and Olivia know other people, and maybe we'll take them in sort of groups along the way, and get a bill over to the House by the end of this session for them to pick up next session. That's the current plan, and things could speed up if there's a reason to speed them up, but we want to make sure, especially because this also impacts town meeting, and which is such a treasured tradition in Vermont. And we want to make sure that we really have a long conversation about how this impacts town meeting, whether it should impact town meeting, all of those things, because I, for one, don't take town meeting lightly, and I don't think any of us do. It's something that's really treasured and unique about Vermont, and we want to make sure that it's a tradition that continues even in the face of potentially remote meetings and at some level.
So to that end, it would be great if we, when we chat with VLCT, Vermont League of Cities and Towns, that we ask them maybe to start surveying towns on what committees are still meeting remotely, what are not, which select, we've heard all over the map that select boards are back full-time, some are not, some school board, it's just a whole range. How many, it would be great to get a sense of Vermont and who is still using this in a robust fashion, who isn't, what are some of the pitfalls? Have some of these towns get to weigh in on the things they'd like to see addressed in this? So a survey to the towns because as we learned, each town has 8, by statute, each town has 8 standing committees or commissions.
Yeah,
that are attached.
we'll certainly get information from the LCT and also the School Boards Association and other organizations, and very importantly from Vermonters who are trying to access their local government. Because it's not just about what select boards want to do. It's about what Vermonters, how they access their government and how the best way for them to do that. So we'll make sure that we hear from people who show up at these meetings one way or the other. So are there other comments at this point? Senator Watson?
I actually have a question for Tucker.
Yeah.
Sorry to come up prior, but in the, I guess this is still, it's the last change, it's in section 1, where it adds the word electronic locations or designated public places. I just want to clarify that this is for this is just for meetings that will be held electronically, or is it for all public meetings?
All public meetings.
So all public meetings, whether they're fully remote, hybrid, or fully in person, do they have to be posted electronically?
They can be posted electronically.
Oh, so this is not,
It's
so this
optional.
is not, you shall post it in an electronic position, it's that you.
It's that or is disjunctive, which means that they can post it in 2 other electronic or physical locations. And in the past, to make it express, some of those temporary authorizations had kind of an exhaustive series that said electronic locations or designated physical locations or a combination of both. But
Okay.
that or should take care of it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions at this point about this bill? So just think about who we want to have in and let Olivia and me know so we can create a running list. And Tucker, if you have suggestions based on your expertise of who we might want to hear from, definitely let me know. Especially if there are other sort of, I don't know, open meeting experts that are non-affiliated with a town government or whatever, that might be helpful for us to hear from. Let me know. Besides you, of course. All right. Senator Norris, did you have your hand up? Oh no, you're just scratching. Okay.
No.
All right. Senator Clarkson.
Yeah, I've got a whole list, both from our expert on remote meetings to administration. Their office space, as we're hearing, is being impacted here, both in Burlington and in Montpelier and in Waterbury, because so much of the administration and the executive branch is still meeting remotely. So it would be interesting to just get a sense of where the state is right now, period, on some of this.
Yeah, and especially because open meeting laws pertain to not just local government, but there are a lot of state commissions and councils and
all our boards
committees and all of that. So I'm hearing from some of them as well about how they're conducting their meetings and what works and how the public is accessing that as well. Okay, Senator White, we were just talking about this open meeting law bill as being a vehicle for a broader and longer conversation. So if there are people you would like us to hear from, let us know, let Olivia and me know, and we'll start a running list of people. And also out there, people who may be listening, please reach out to me and let me know. Okay, we're done. Thank you, Tucker. Have a great weekend. Stay warm.
Thanks, Tucker.
Okay, so we're gonna move on now to appointment letters. So hopefully you guys have all, the four of you have interviewed people. So we'll just take who is ready to go. Senator White, you wanna go?
Thank
Sure,
you.
Your person.
I don't have a letter.
That's fine.
Okay. I met with June Heston, who was my assigned person, and we had a very good conversation about her background and skill set and the work that she's done to support veterans, specifically folks who were affected by burn pits.
What is she being appointed to?
Staff.
So what is that?
Staff.
What is?
Oh.
I'm like, say it again, but I'm not sure what that is.
I would love to read their charge, so let me look.
Yeah, please do. Okay.
It might take me a moment.
We may need some
That's totally
chocolate.
fine.
Is this a good moment to pass?
Chocolate
around
is, it's
chocolate?
almost always a good moment.
It's Friday and we need, particularly given how cold it is outside, we definitely, the inner Brit in me is reminding us that we need sugar to heat ourselves.
Yes, that's right.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah, so
And a rib.
while we wait for Senator White, is everybody else ready with their person? Okay, Senator Norris, go.
I spoke with retired Major John Philippek. He's been appointed to the State Police Advisory Committee. I've known John for a little over 20 years. I worked with him when he was a lieutenant out of the St. Albans State Police Barracks. John has been a trooper from 1980 to 2010. He started in the St. Johnsbury Barracks, worked his way up to Brattleboro. He served as a sergeant in the Governor Security Unit, DEA Drug Task Force undercover. He was a detective sergeant before being promoted to station commander in St. Albans.
Okay,
He was a captain of A Troop, which is both Wilson and St. Albans, assistant field force commander. And before retirement, he was promoted to the field force commander major at Uniform Division. John has spent 7 years on the crisis negotiation team and 5 years as a tactical survivor. He's married to his wife of 37 years, Susan. They have 3 children. I use the term children lightly because they're fully grown. Mike has followed in his father's footsteps, and he is now also a Vermont State Trooper out of the St. Albans Barracks, and he has attained the rank of detective.
wow.
Oh, great.
And I've known John for, like I say, in excess of 20 years.
And so what is he being appointed to again?
I'm
The-
sorry, he's the State Police Advisory Committee. He was
State
appointed on
Police
April
Advisory.
20th.
Ah.
Last year we did Shirley Jefferson, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Every year we have.
Cool.
I'm
So-
highly recommended by
Yeah.
this senator.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it.
So I'm
Okay, so what we do for these, just so you know, is if anybody has questions for Senator Norris, we'll take questions. And then we'll need a motion, which you can do to approve, and then we'll take a vote. And since you're clerk, you can note it. And if you have a letter, you should each have a copy of the letter you got. Just write on it the vote and then sign it with your name. And then each of you has to take that up to the Senate Secretary's office personally. Olivia can't do it for you. And give it to somebody in the Senate Secretary's office, say it's an appointment letter. Got it? And then it will show up on our calendar, and we'll do them probably in a group. Once there's enough up there on a Friday, I'll say, I move all of these for all the committees, and we'll do them as a group.
So there's no like floor readings or anything on it?
Not for this level. If we get any commissioners or secretaries or boards, then we would have a floor report. But at this level, they're just done as a group.
Well, then, Madam Chair, I move that this body nominate or accept the committee appointment for John Philippek for the State Police Advisory Committee.
Excellent. So technically what the motion is that the Government Operations Committee recommends to the full Senate the approval of the appointment of X, Y, and Z to X, Y, and Z. So, but we'll just pretend you said that.
I heard him say that.
Yeah, I think you said that you recommended approval.
That's correct, Madam Chair.
Does anyone have questions for Senator Norris? Senator White?
Madam Chair, could we move it as a motion because we both have two people on the spec? Or does it? should we
Let's do
it-
them all individually and then just so there's no confusion and, all right, if there's no questions and no more discussion, you want to call the roll, clerk?
I will. Senator Clarkson,
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
Yes.
Zahuski,
Yes.
Norris, yes. I forgot myself on the way. Chair Hardy,
Yes.
so that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0, 0.
Excellent. Okay,
And I'll take this, right?
pardon me?
The third.
The third.
Yeah, date and sign and put the vote on it and then we'll be good. Senator White, go for it.
Thank you, Charity. So just so folks know what the charge of or the description of the SPAC group is, the State Police Advisory Commission provides advice and counsel to the commissioners of public safety in carrying out his or her responsibilities for management, supervision, and control of the Vermont State Police. June Heston and I had a very good conversation where she described she's no stranger to boards or commissions. In particular, I was impressed by her work with veterans and the burn pit, folks who have been impacted by burn pits.
She's instrumental in our legislation.
So she's a powerhouse, and I think it would be she would be well served. She would be serving our community very well by being on this commission.
Is she a current member of the commission?
She's been on it since August,
Okay.
but
I
so yes, but I think this is her first appointment to it.
Okay, and yours was a reappointment to it, correct? Or is he?
No, he was appointed on April 20, 2022.
Okay, so also a fairly new appointment, not a reappointment.
It says nothing about him
Okay.
being on before that.
I don't
All
believe
right.
it's a reappointment.
Are there any questions for?
I got a quick one. I was doing
Yeah.
the clerk stuff there.
Yeah.
What does she do presently? What did she do? I'm sorry.
Oh, what does she do now?
I think she's retired.
Yeah, I don't think she has a full-time position
Retired
outside of.
from-
She's run for office before. She seems to have done consulting work, is my understanding.
She's married to Major General
Yeah,
Michael Heston, who died as a result of exposure. to
Oh, I
burns.
know Michael, yes.
Yeah.
Right, so this is.
Yeah, so actually in the future, it'd be great if you ask your people for a resume.
Oh, I think,
Okay,
yeah, I
we're
just,
reading from
I
a
have
bio
one,
or
yes.
a resume, yeah. And then you have the full information. Because there is a chance you could get asked on the floor a question. Somebody might say, I want to take this person separately and ask you questions on the floor. So you could even ask her now for her resume.
Sure.
Even if we approve her, so you have it for background. So, okay, any other questions for Senator White? Okay, you want to make a motion?
sure. Madam Chair, I would move that the Government Operations Committee accept the appointment of.
Recommend the
Recommend the appointment of June Heston to the State Police Advisory Commission.
Recommend to the full Senate approval of the appointment.
Approval of the appointment.
Yeah, there you go. Something like that. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, clerk, call the roll.
Senators Clarkson,
yes,
Watson,
Yes.
Norris, yes. White,
Yes.
Mahuski,
yes.
Chair Hardy,
Yes,
Okay.
6, 0, 0.
excellent.
And then I just sign it.
Yeah, I think
Date it.
technically that's what you're supposed to do, sign, date, and put the vote.
Oh,
All right, you ready?
I'm ready, but I do have a question. My letter that was handed to me is on my kitchen table. Cool.
Our trusty committee assistant always has our back.
Thank you very much. So I spoke to Glenn Boyd. Glenn has been serving on the Vermont State Police Advisory Commission since 2013.
Okay.
So he is a reappointment. He has been a corrections officer for 36 years and is one of only 2 African Americans on the Vermont State Police Advisory Commission.
Shirley Jackson being the other one.
He felt very strongly that he brings a unique perspective, both from his work. He is also on for his work in corrections is a member of the Vermont. Oh, it's not the Criminal Justice Training.
Justice training.
It is the Criminal Justice Training Council now. So he does sit on that council as well. But he feels that he has a strong, that diversity and racial equity is really important to him, and that he is bringing a particular view from within his experience, particularly around internal affairs and the racial discrimination that he sometimes has experienced happening there. He is currently the vice chair of the Vermont State Police Advisory Committee. And that is his particular areas of interest and focus, as I said, are racial bias, use of force, and training, and how we tackle those things.
Excellent. Okay, are there any questions for Senator Leoski? Okay, you want to make a motion?
Yep, but I'm gonna get it wrong, even though I've heard it twice now. So I would make a motion that the committee recommend the reappointment of, I believe it's Corporal Glenn Boyd, to the Vermont State Police Advisory Commission.
That's good, that's good. Sure, we'll go with that.
Sure.
All right, are there further discussion?
All
All right, clerk, you want to call the roll?
I will. Senators Clarkson,
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
Norris, yes. White,
Yes.
Bohowski,
Yes.
Chair Hardy.
Yes.
Okay,
6-0-0.
excellent. Senator Watson.
Yes, so I had the pleasure of interviewing Kyle Harris, who was reappointed to the Cannabis Control Board. With the originating of that board, they all drew different time lengths to serve, and so he had the short straw, so to speak. So with that, he only was.
Got the shortest term.
He got the shortest term, and so he was up for reappointment here. So he came to the Cannabis Control Board from the Agency of Agriculture, and so he brings the small grower perspective to that board. And he was very knowledgeable about like what the industry has even done, what the board has been able to accomplish even in a short time. It's brought in $863,000 in revenue just in November and December. He was also the web developer for the group to help getting it up and running. And so he also,
Vital.
yes, actually, he was very proud of the fact that the very first Zoom meeting that they ever had before they even had any assets was the very first Zoom meeting was on his personal Zoom account. Anyway, so he anticipates that the Vermont brand of cannabis basically is going to be the small batch, which will be able to compete in the national market. So anyway, all that is to say, it seems like he has a really great handle on the market and how we're going to be able to be successful moving forward. I don't have a resume at this time, but I could ask him for. And he sounded like a great asset to the team. So there we are.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention about that
No,
resume.
no.
Now, so,
Sound good.
okay, any questions for Senator? You want to make a motion?
We move that we, the Government Operations Committee, recommend reapproval of Kyle Harris to the Cannabis Control Board.
Excellent. Further discussion? All right, clerk, call the roll.
Senators Clarkson,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Norris, yes. Watson,
Yes.
Bohowski,
Yes.
and Chair Hardy.
Yes. Excellent, okay, so cool, I'm so happy, thank you guys for remembering to do you need the paper?
I do, well, mine is in my bag in the other room.
Okay,
If you have one.
there you go.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, just, we are gonna actually, we are way ahead of schedule here, which is rare for us. But we have the Vermont Youth Council coming at 2, and we're not gonna be able to have them earlier because it's like 11 kids, right? Yeah, so they're gonna come on Zoom. Like 11 to 20-year-olds, I think. And they're going to give us an update about what the youth council is doing. And Senator Clarkson was on this committee last year when we created the Vermont Youth Council. And
One of
they,
our pages, one of our former pages, an intern. It's a
yeah, it's real, it's a really great,
Yeah.
yeah, Senator Bukowski worked on it in the House. It's a really great council with young Vermonters, and one of their tasks is to advise us on what young Vermonters needs and desires and priorities are. So we're gonna take as much time as they need to hear from them. We also are Olivia's gonna try to take some screenshots of them, and then maybe we'll try to get a photo. It might be a little difficult of us standing next to the screen, because if they were here in person, we would get a photo with all of them, but, so it might be a little hokey, but we'll try it. But they're not coming till 2, so we can take a 25-minute break, but please just be back here in time, so we're not keeping all of them waiting. I think most of them probably don't have school today, because